It was summer of 2016, and I was at my best friend's wedding in the north of India. And I'm a South Indian, so I was dressed very differently from the rest of the crowd. And as a result, I piqued the interest and curiosity of my friends' cousins from nearby towns and villages. So all these young girls would come, circle all around me, and start asking me questions. They would say, Didi, how old are you? Why are you still not married? Your best friend is getting married. Do you not want to get married? Are your parents worried? Are they looking out for you? Etc., etc. And they would also ask me, Didi, how much money do you make? You came all the way from Bangalore to here in a flight all by yourself. And no matter who came up to me, they would ask me a similar set of questions. And at first I was a little shocked, and I thought, have these girls never seen a working woman before, right? But I kept answering their questions anyway. And in a couple of days, I befriended these girls. And at that point, something more interesting began to unravel. So now these girls would ask me questions, but they would ask me different kind of questions. So this time the questions were driven by their own innate desires and not driven by their, the societal expectations. For example, now they would say, Didi, I want an internship in Bombay or Delhi. Can you teach me how to get one? Or they would say, Didi, can you show me how to write a resume? One of the girls actually said to me, I want to become a dentist, but my parents want me to get married next year. So how should I go home and talk to them to not do that? And that was an epiphany for me, which is when I realized that India's young women need female relatable role models. I'm sure these young girls have read about role models like Marie Curie or Frida Kahlo in their classrooms. And don't get me wrong, those women are legendary and we all are inspired by them. But they're definitely far off and intimidating for the kind of young women that I'm talking about. But rather, if you showed these young girls somebody who is slightly unconventional from their frame of reference, but yet is relatable, somehow they gain the courage and the confidence to say, I want to pursue my own dreams too. And I came back from that wedding and I began to do more research on this topic of women in workforce in India. And I found out that only 24% of working age women in India have paid jobs. And this number in the United States is 56%, and in China it is 61%. And if you consider only the urban workforce participation of women in India, it's less than 15%. And no matter where you look, the data is absolutely shocking. Only 14% of researchers in India are women. Only 12% of commercial pilots are women. And there are less than 100 neurosurgeons, female neurosurgeons in India across generations, right? I mean, what's going on here? I mean, we all know that every year more and more India's young women are getting educated, but somehow that is not translating into paid jobs. Imagine what would happen to India's GDP if more of India's educated women came into workforce. I mean, we would add $700 billion to our GDP if more women actually showed up to engage in paid work. But India's young women, like the ones that I met at the wedding, are grappling with the problem of lack of relatable role models. They're longing for journeys of Didis next door, and thus began my journey of uncovering Didis next doors for India's young women, which led to the genesis of my first book, Wonder Girls. So in my work, I've profiled mini biographies of 15 young women from different parts of India, and they're all pursuing diverse career paths. And I've not just taken women from big cities, I've also taken women from small towns, right? For example, one of the girls that I've interviewed is a scientist from a remote village in Sikkim called Soreng. I've interviewed a photographer from Vijayawada. I spent time with a gym coach and instructor from Surat. One of the girls that I've profiled is a casting director who grew up in Jabalpur. There's a physics professor from Delhi, and so on, right? And my goal with this is that when young women read my work, they get the courage and the confidence to go after their own dreams. So my book got published, and I didn't want it to be just another retail product that is targeted at the upper classes, right? I wanted it to speak to the masses. I wanted it to reach the masses. So what we've done is that we've launched a pilot program with a network of schools in Pune called iTeach, wherein the teachers are actually using my work to introduce students to female role models, to introduce students to diverse career paths that exist in the world today, and also expose them to broader topics like grit, resilience, gender sensitivity, etc. And as expected, these journeys of Didis next door are inspiring many young women, especially in the classrooms. So this is Huma Zareen. She's a grade 10 student from Pune. And when I met her, she told me, Didi, I always wanted to become a doctor, but in my immediate surroundings, I didn't know anybody who was a doctor. But when I read about the neurosurgeon that you profiled, I knew exactly what needed to be done so that I can become a doctor. This is Kirtika Joshi, a class 10 student from Pune, who told me that everybody around her told her that in life you can't make mistakes, you don't get second chances. But she told me that when she read the chapter of the gym coach, she knew that you can make mistakes and you can make a comeback. This is Anasuya Gaikwad. She sent me an email a couple of weeks ago saying that she wants to become an author. So none of these reactions from the girls are surprising to me. They were even expected. But what I did not anticipate was the kind of reactions that my work would evoke from the young boys. So this is Karthik Kamble. Karthik is a grade 9 student. He called me up and he told me that, Didi, I do not think that gender inequality should exist in the world anymore. So if you pause for a moment and think about what this young boy is saying, it's very, very powerful. This is Shubham Kilare. So I met Shubham, and Shubham told me, Didi, before reading your work in my classroom, I never thought girls can do anything. I didn't believe that they could do anything. But after I read this work, I completely changed my mind. I now think girls can do anything. And Karthik also, by the way, took some of the chapters back to his parents, and he talked to them about their journeys. And his parents jokingly told him that if girls can do so much, why don't you get inspired by them and also start doing something with your life? So I did not anticipate any of these reactions from the young boys. And I'm sure both Shubham and Karthik were exposed to role models in their classrooms before. But the moment they saw a relatable role model that they were exposed to, they knew exactly what needed to be changed in their surroundings. And they in turn became passionate advocates for gender equality. And I'm pretty sure that both Shubham and Karthik will grow up to be a very different kind of men now that they've been exposed to female relatable role models. So when I began my journey with Wonder Girls, I began it with the hypothesis that young girls in India need female relatable role models. But my journey has taught me that the young boys need exposure to female role models as much as the girls do. Thank you so much.